Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining the podcast today. Um, I heard you complaining about the podcast being in German, so you can do
Yeah,
it in English for the first time today.
good, good. Though it was more of a request than a complaint, but yeah, you got the point.
Yeah, no, I think you're the perfect next guest because I mean, right now in our network, I mean, our network hosts lots of freelancers, small agencies,
Yep.
and startups like yours.
Yeah.
And the one thing that is a real problem right now for most freelancers and agencies is actually customer acquisition, right? So the
Yep.
last 10 years were really good on most people working in tech. We didn't have to worry about new clients. They were coming to us. We never learned how to do sales, how to do marketing, how to do branding. And yeah, I think sales for most people is this black box, and it's something they don't want to touch because then they're the sleazy salesman, right? They reach out to a lot of people and they get a lot of no's, and most people shy away from that.
Yeah.
And so I think inviting you to this podcast is perfect for the time right now because yeah, as I said, these freelancers all have trouble with it. In our sales
Yep.
mastery class, I realized that they shy away from it, but they know that they have to do it. So a lot of people were asking us like, how do we set up a good outreach strategy?
Good.
Which tools do we use? Like, how do we phrase these messages and all of these things that we do together? You as Hapsil and me,
Mhm.
and it's really helpful because black box it was a black box to me as well. And when you started working with me, I realized, okay, there's so much more to know about this whole topic, and it's not just as
Yep.
you put it on your website, like spray and pray. I love
Yeah.
that one.
Indeed, indeed.
It's not just like using the shotgun and
Yeah.
hoping for clients.
Yeah.
And so I want to focus today on really actionable sales strategies and tactics, specifically for freelancers and agencies in the tech space, if that's okay with you.
Happy to do that. Um, so how do you want to start? Like, uh, do we have topics to chat about? First of all, whatever you just said actually is quite true, yeah. Where the a lot of the salespeople, they are not given the proper training, so they don't actually know a lot of the things that they need to do, especially the freshers. And I can imagine as a freelancer that has to do all of the things in a business. Sales might get deprioritized as soon as you have a customer. So you have this on and off relationship with sales. And the role of the salesperson, more specifically the SDR, has changed a lot. It used to be just cold calling. If you go as far as back to Oracle starting their sales development department, which was what, 30 years ago or something like that. Um, it was basically going through a list and calling people one after the other. And so, what were your skills? It was nimble fingers to quickly type the numbers and being good at the phone. And then came the auto dialers, and then came the email as email first with the Aaron Ross, and eventually that got saturated, and then it was email and cold calling, and then was email, cold calling, and social, and now automation, and now AI doing all of the writing. So the skills keep changing because a lot of the actions get automated or they become not so relevant because of the noise in the industry. So one of the things that salespeople should focus on is to continually upskill themselves, right? What is new, especially in outreach, because you are competing for attention, and um, wherever you reach out, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's phone, whether it's email, you're basically competing for the attention that a lot of other people are competing for. And so if you do the exact same thing others are doing, then you're part of the noise. So you have to differentiate. So from my perspective, the thing that I've seen that work really well is to be different in how you target, and the channels that you use, and what you say in your content, and so forth. Yeah. So yeah, that would be a good point to start with, I think.
All right. I mean, before we start, let's maybe take one step back and introduce you properly. So I think
Sure.
you could do that best. So maybe you can just jump in. Like, how did you come to the idea to build Hubsell? What is
Okay.
Hubsell? What are you doing?
Okay.
Just sentences.
Yeah. So Hubsell happened to be. That's it. I was working in another company, nice team and all that, and I was asked to trial and build a process with Outreach.io. Outreach was fresh back then. We were like probably one of the earlier customers, and they were a very small team. And at the same time, for data, I set up a team of freelancers in India to get us good data. And so I built this machine to do the work, and it was okay. It was good. It worked. And then I looked around, and there were not a lot of tools doing that. So um, I just thought, okay, why not try and build an actual company from it? So I put the idea online as a job offering to find a co-founder in a website called Work in Startups, which is a UK-based startup. And a whole bunch of CTO types replied, and they applied for the job. I had interviews with them, and I met my current co-founder, who is Italian, based in Milan, and he was the only one that said, "Hey, why not? Let's just try it. Let's work for a couple of weeks, see what happens. And if it's interesting, we could continue. If it's not, well, we both learned something." It was that kind of mentality, which was great. I'd never met him before. It was only online, and we started it up. And in the beginning, the idea was to provide good data, which was fresh data. And then our customers who had all that data, they wanted a way to use that data because there was no real one-to-one fit with any tool out there. There were no tools that were allowing them to use all of that data to personalize better. We had gender before it was even like given in most of these databases. We had department seniority that you could use with if this then that once we built the software. And so we built this process where the customer could differentiate the content of the message based on whether this person is a CXO or if they are a manager, and if they're in this industry versus that industry. And there were all these cool use cases. For example, if contact is in financial services industry, then they could put the reference from a client or customer from the financial industry. Versus if they're in automotive, then they would put a reference there or a case study, or even the jargon would change. And this was all based on if this equals this, then that, and then if that equals that. So it was like if this, then that in the content. Um, and then our product became too complicated because we kept on adding use cases on top of it. And so we sort of became a soft data plus software plus consulting. And so we would co-execute the campaigns. We would help them write the content. We will help them create the templates. And that went on for some time, but we felt, okay, we can't scale in all three directions. We can't do data, outreach, and consulting. So we cut the consulting part. And now we're just a data and software company. And we provide consulting via partners to our customers. So we outsource that. We train our partners, which once you're done is done. They're trained. So you don't need to scale the HR aspects of that. And when AI came, we saw that as an unlock of value because we have already had a lot of data and we always provided a lot of data, but this data was somewhat difficult for customers to use with all this if this then that. And so now with AI, which I think we can touch on in more detail later on, um, it unlocked the value of fresh data, of new data, and a system that allows you to create templates with a lot of detail, right? If I'm being too abstract with things, let me know, then we can deep dive on any particular point, yeah? So
Yeah, absolutely.
long answer to a short question. This is the how we got to today with Upsell.
I think it's really interesting, not only from the sales perspective, but also from the how to build a startup perspective, right? Because a lot of startups fall into the agency trap, right? They
Yeah.
build software that is tailored to one use case, and then they talk to new clients, and then all of a sudden they build a new version of that same software, and they do it over and over again, and in the end they find themselves to be a software development agency actually. So I think
Correct.
that's an interesting insight, yeah. And yeah, but you were talking about the developing sales landscape and how it changed over the
Yeah.
years. Maybe you can dive into, for those who don't know, maybe you can dive into the daily routine of a salesperson or an
Okay.
SDR in sales speak.
Okay. I think we don't need to go back 30 years. I think that that's way too long. But if we look at the last 5 years, which is, let's say, a year before Corona or the year that GDPR came about, um, outreach worked. Outreach worked quite well. You could expect, call set rates of five, six. We had a customer that had 13% call set rate. So it worked. And the main reason for that was the noise was still limited. It was there, but you got penalized if you were completely not creative. If your campaigns were just, one track, just send, 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 and if your content was just completely uninspired, that's when you didn't get results. Otherwise, you got results. But what happened was a bunch of tools came into the market, and the entry level to doing outbound became non-existent. Basically, everybody and their grandma could do outreach. And so what happened was that you had um, you had the number of salespeople that, wait a second, I keep getting notifications. The number of salespeople that got into the tactic of outbound increased. So let's say that there was a increase there like this, and the number of actions done by salespeople per salesperson also increased. So there was a twofold increase from two different directions. So you got this hockey stick thing. And so now cold outbound is so common, you'll be hard pressed to find people that are not doing it at one way or another. If it's just LinkedIn, if it's just cold calling, if it's just email, and a lot of time automated. So the noise is deafening in the industry. Conversions have gone down, and that has created in my opinion, a vicious cycle. And you already see the market responding to that with new technologies. So the vicious cycle is you need a lot more volume to get the same number of results. And you need those results to continue growing or surviving as a company. And so those results are not non-negotiable. You cannot change them. Yeah, you need X number of appointments per month. But the conversion rates have decreased. So you basically, the only lever that you're pulling is the volume. So you're saying, I'm going to double now, next another time double, another double, another double, of the volume. And so conversion rates are going to zero. So they are racing towards a zero, um, which has brought on technologies which allow you to rapidly create tens of, mailboxes, rapidly acquire multiple domains, email warm up. We had no email warm up 5 years ago, and we had open rates which were 60, 70%. Now the first thing that you get asked for is, okay, do you support email warm-up? Can we create multiple mailboxes? Do you provide that sort of services? Because that's the whole volume-based approach. The instead of reaching out to 100 people to get 3 appointments, you want to reach out to 10,000 people to get 10 appointments. That sort of is the mindset with a lot of the players in the industry. Okay, and so the tasks of an SDR, they have switched from, let's say, 5 years ago, which was do good data research and create a template, follow up, maybe have some manual actions in your outreach, to this pseudo technical role, which is like, all right, I got to warm up my domain. I got to go and check my DMARC and SPF and DKIM records on my domain. I got to, let's say, use this tool to do this in the middle and then use that. So salespeople have created, let's say, the current environment of outreach requires salespeople to learn a variety of tools. And some of those tools, as far as I'm concerned, are not necessary if you would change the fundamentals of your outreach, which is instead of focused on the volume, if you focused on the conversion, and instead of racing to zero with the conversion, you are focusing on how can I improve my conversion. I think you'll find better results. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
that's a good segue into my next question, actually.
Okay.
So my question would be, how do you leverage technology and personalization as a salesperson to increase your efficiency in a very populated market?
Okay. Okay, that's a big question. So let's say that, in order to achieve that, let's say the the requirement is that you want to have outreach that is personalized, that is relevant and targeted. Well, the first thing you're going to start with is creating a very good ICP and persona, meaning you can't personalize without knowing who you're targeting, right? And I'm not talking about each person you need to know, but okay, what is the ICP? Because your whatever you're selling, whether it's a service or a product, it needs to be um, appealing in the words of the market that you're targeting. So let's say you're targeting software companies in Berlin, and then you can narrow it down and say, well, software companies that are producing SaaS products and marketing them, for example. That's your ICP, and then within them, what are your personas that you're going to target? Like, who are the buyers? You got to start from that level, and you got to be very, very clear on that as to who they are and what your benefit is to them, and so forth and so on. Then you got to get the data, and the data should be qualitative, right? Um, for example, you can't just go and buy data that is, you don't know how many of them are no longer working there. Um, or if they're still working there, have they changed their title and you're addressing them in the wrong title, and so forth and so on. There are many, many reasons why you should make sure that your data is good, and there are many pitfalls of database data. Then once you have a well-defined ICP, well-defined persona, relevant data that is fresh and complete, then you can start personalizing well, right? One simple method of personalization is to bucket them into very narrow buckets. If you don't want to use AI, and if you don't want to use, well, embedded personalization, you can bucket them into very, very small portions that where you can write a very good template that very much resonates with them. That's one way. It's a simpler way. It has some front end work, meaning you do the work before the outreach starts, but it can work. I've seen a good example of it, and skilled salespeople can outperform AI when they do this kind of stuff, right? Um, the other way is if you have good data, if you've targeted, if you have good ICP, good persona, and good data, you can use AI to write the content for you. And there you can differentiate between these black box prompting companies where you import your data and it sort of does whatever it does for you, and you can say, I don't like this one, I like this one, but you don't have a choice, or you can't really edit because they're prompting. Yeah, so what is happening in the background is that they are prompting a LLM or AI to get you that content. So they have all these, like moderating things in there, and they say, write it like this. So it's all a prompt that they send, but they don't show you the prompt. So that's one camp of the AI personalization group. And the other camp is where you do get to see the prompt, and you can edit the prompt, and you can test the prompt. We fall into the second category where we show you what the prompt is. Sure, there could be a pre-existent prompt that you can edit, but you have a lot of freedom in editing that. And the pros and cons to this. By the way, feel free to pause me anytime. I have a habit of rambling on. Yeah. And so the prompt, um, so I think I lost my train of thought. The black boxed one, they're easy to use. Yeah, so you won't need any training for that. You just go there and you start using them, and you get the results that you get. Sure, there will be results, maybe mediocre results, but with the prompt which is open to you, there is an upskilling required. You need to become a prompteneer, right? A prompt engineer. And I think that is going to be key. I personally believe that that is going to be a skill that salespeople, and I think a lot of other departments, but especially salespeople, will need, because the capacity and the competences of AI is increasing. GPT-5 is going to be very smart. Anthropic is competing. Cloud 3 Opus is quite smart already, and they're going to have Cloud 4 and so forth and so on. So AI are going to compete with each other in terms of, which is better, and humans cannot compete with this. So,
So in the
some
end, it's
smart guys said, say again?
yeah, no, I was going to say this. So in the end, it's AI selling to AI, right?
I've been asked that question, and I answer it in this way, that as long as humans are buying, in the buying process, there will be no full AI selling process. In B2B, in B2C, I think it's probably already in many, many places, it's fully AI. I think once AI starts buying, that's when AI will sell and everything will be autonomous, right? So they need something in the ERP, and it goes to and acquires it and so forth and so on. But I think there are many industries that will not happen. Professional services, typically, I don't think that would happen anytime soon. Depends on, of course, how fast the AI moves. But what I was saying is,
Um,
yeah, go on.
yeah, no, I just wanted to maybe wrap this one topic up so I can
Yeah,
understand. Um, so you're saying that a conversion focus in your outreach strategy is always superior to a volume-based outreach strategy, or would you combine those, like having having a large group of prospects and
yeah,
very good conversion focused
yeah,
messaging? Maybe you can dive
yeah.
into that.
Okay. So I mean, once you have been able to automate things, you can obviously scale it, right? You can scale it. But I think still the the volume-based approach, I associate that with just grabbing a whole bunch of people, uh, and low quality data, because it has a high demand of data count. Volume-based requires a high amount of data. And I think if you do the quality focus or conversion focus, that amount of data will be too expensive for you. You know, 10,000 contacts bought from a database could be 1,000 euros. But 10,000 contacts bought from a real time, near real time data generated could be 10,000. And so, are you going to use those 10,000 in a week, which you typically do in volume based approach? So, I think, sure, you can scale this, but it's not going to be at the level of volume based outreach. It will be 1/10, I think. You could do probably 1,000 a week, but you're not going to do 10,000. And, all things aside, number of users in your team, number of sellers, I mean, in your team, obviously that is a scaling factor, right? And you also got to think about, when you do outreach, narrowing down your focus is good because it makes you more relevant. And when you narrow it down, you limit the size of your market. And you can have several smaller markets that you target, right? So that's one way of controlling the volume, which is like, you can say, I target all B2B companies in the whole world. Okay, now your market size is 5 million probably, or something. Or you can say, I target companies that are, let's say, with around 100 people, located in I don't know, let's be super narrow, located in Berlin, 100 plus, SaaS, and have recently been funded. Let's say you're going to narrow this down, and because your message, now you've narrowed down your market so much, your message is going to be much more relevant to them. Okay. Um, so that's one reason to focus, and why volume won't work. And you cannot really scale this volume to the extent of volume-based outreach. And the other thing is, you have a finite market, right? Especially if your product is niche. And in order to compete in the market, you need to have a sort of a niche or many niches. And so your market is finite. You don't want to burn those bridges, you know and memories are long in B2B. And so if you did some very, very bad outreach and you burned those markets, you're going to see these short-term upfront results, but then you might need to rebrand. And I've seen companies do that. Even Apollo rebranded, used to be called Zen Prospect. And so they did a whole bunch of stuff. They got a data breach and they had a negative name, and then they switched the name to Apollo, and nobody remembers that. And I've seen that with a few different companies, that they sort of burned the market. I don't know if I answered your question completely, but that would be a few different considerations of
No, absolutely. Thank you. I think that's exactly um, the question mark that I had in my head. And that's exactly what we teach people in our sales mastery class, right? Because
okay.
a lot of them are very broad. So we have, I don't know, product managers or even marketers, and they say, yeah, but I'm a generalist, and I say, yeah, you can be a generalist, but you need to find your niches,
Yeah,
right? The ones that you
absolutely.
present to potential customers, because your customers are not looking for generalists. They're
No,
looking for the person who has experience in that specific field to solve their uh, urgent problems, right?
yeah.
So I think, I mean, what you just explained matches exactly what we teach. So that's perfect. Yeah, but to circle
To
back
add
to
to what you
the
just said, yeah, actually want to expand on what you just said is
yeah
that's one reason that you want to have a niche. The other thing is, let's say you are a generalist, and let's say you have actually a host of competencies and you can serve a lot of different markets. If you will target all of the markets with the same message, they're not going to understand you, and you're competing for attention. As soon as I read something, um, and I don't immediately understand it, and I don't need to read it, I'm not going to read it. I don't have the time to have that cognitive load. And so, even if you are a generalist and you have all these people in your company or your team and you're connected with all these different people and you can serve all these different use cases, it still pays for you to narrow it down and only send the person what they should be seeing or hearing. What is your unique selling proposition for them? Not what is the unique selling proposition, you as an entity, but for them. And it's the for them that you should focus on. Yeah.
yeah. Thanks. That totally matches what I was what I was thinking. I wanted to circle back to the to the data point that you were making. So the value of accurate, up-to-date data in outbound sales. And and we were talking earlier before the podcast about outdated B2B databases being a liability. I want you to dive into that.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you an example. We recently finished a project with a customer, and 33%, 34% of their contacts had moved on to another role. Okay. That's 1 in 3. So if you're a salesperson that needs to ring them up, that's already diminishing 1/3 of your total potential. And the worst thing about outdated data is that you don't know which one is outdated and which one is not outdated. So that's the worst part. It's not that 33% is now useless. You don't know which 33% that or 34% it is that is outdated. The one thing. And then even within the same company, people move, people change roles. I have had the same role in HubSell for the last 8 years. I used to call myself CEO, then I changed my title to managing director, and now I call myself chief galvanizer, which there's a story behind it. I'll tell you some other time. But I've changed this role. If somebody now reaches out to me and says, "Hey, as CEO of HubSpot, I know this guy has data that is 3 years old," and I know it's called outbound, and people within their company change titles. C-level is very stable because where can you go after C-level? Board, most likely, or you close the company. But C-level is very stable, but VPs and managers, they all change. And this is not reflected in your CRM. Okay. Let's say you then say that, okay, I'll go buy data. I'll get this refreshed. From where? Zoom Info? Zoom Info is not updated data. It's a more updated than your CRM. But they have like 400, 500, 300, I don't know how many million they have. They don't update that daily. They don't update that monthly. Not that they are technologically not able to do this, but the overhead of that is not reflected in what they sell. It's not reflected in the price that they give you. So they cannot update the entire database every month. Yeah. They get their data from the same sources you would get: LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, public sources. And here's something you should think about is that if I would leave this job, let's say I was working as a sales manager in a company, I get another job or I get fired. I'm not going to change my title on LinkedIn until I get the next job. So it could be 3 months, it could be 2 months. So whatever you see on LinkedIn is, in case the data is wrong, is 3 months old or 2 months old. And they update it 2, 3 months after that. So you could have 6 months old data in databases. So that's data age. The other thing you need to think about is completion. How complete is the data, right? Does it have everything that you need? And so at HubSell, we have an acronym, we call it CARVED, right? Like you carve a sculpture or you carve a cake or whatever you want to do. It's carved, and C is for complete, A is for accurate, relevant, valid, exact, and data privacy adherent. That's the D for it. That's the end. As a German company, you need to be the D at the end, right? And so when you have that data, you unburden your salespeople entirely because they can rely on that data. Okay, so I know you asked for the point was to compare databases and near real-time data providers. So what is a near real-time data provider? These are data providers that don't hold the data to sell you. So they don't sell out of their database to you. They sell a process to you, which is they'll go and gather the data, they'll structure it, they'll complete it, they'll check it, they'll get you the email, and you get the data. So the data in your hand is fresh. It's not from a database. It's a couple of days old, maximum a week old. Compare that data to a database, it's basically, heaven and earth difference. Yeah.
I see. And how do you make sure that you get that real-time data? Or maybe, I don't know
Okay.
if you want to unveil the secrets of HubSell, but maybe you
No, not
can.
really. I mean, I say that to every prospect that I meet. If they want to know, how do you do it? This is how we do it. And you can do it yourself, but it'll cost you a lot of money. I mean, you will be using a salesperson or an SDR to do this, and they're too expensive to do something like this. And so the way we do it is we have an automation on SalesNav, on page on SalesNav, where you click a button and it sort of takes the results from SalesNav. It doesn't open any profiles. So we're not using your account to open profiles. We just take the information that is listed in the search at about 1 to 2 per second. Okay? And there's no upper limit because you can actually see as many results as you want. You could see 10,000 results in a day on SalesNav, but you cannot open those profiles. That's what LinkedIn counts. They don't want you to open each profile. And we don't open the profiles. We just take the information that is on Sales Navigator lead search pages. And then this data goes in HubSell, and we use our open source intelligence methods to go and scrape those profiles with our own tools. So we don't use your account for that. And so we go and get that data, and we get their full LinkedIn profile, full LinkedIn company page, homepage of the company. We'll be expanding soon also to posts and stuff. And this data comes into your HubSell privatized database. And then it gets parsed, it gets structured, it gets processed by AI. Then we get the email. Email is a whole another science, right? I mean, you got email addresses on non-catch-all and catch-all servers. And you could roughly kind of divide 50-50. In the industry, you get 50-50 divide. Non-catch-all can be SMTP pinged. And then you get, so if I said, let's say, does Jan X5 exist at eas.com, right? And if your server was non-catch-all, it will say, I reject, it doesn't exist. And this is how you can try all these different structures, and you get eventually the right one. So that's non-catch-all or SMTP pingable. The catch-all will say, and I'll ping your server, and let's assume your server is catch-all, and I say, does Jan X5 exist? It'll say, catch-all. I accept. I'll say, does symbol of boron and the sign of division at Jan at exist? They'll say catch-all. I will never know if it's a correct email address or not. And that's
So if
around
I
50%. Huh?
yes, if I don't want cold outreach emails, I just need to set my my URL to catch all.
Yeah. Yes.
Ah,
I mean, you can set that up, but anyway.
that's good to
But
know.
then again, we could still sell your data because we know how to get that email. So yeah, I think it actually would be really good for my company if the entire world set their servers to catch all. Then we'll be one of the few ones that can give you that data.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Anyway, so yeah, do set it up actually, and promote
Yeah.
it with others to set it up as well. Okay, so you know, then the email gets processed, and we give you the right email address, and it's very accurate, I would say. Um, and all that data that you get in your account is done within a couple of days. And so this is how we can promise the near real time. It's not real time, it's near real time. Let's say I'm using the word near quite loosely because 3 days is not really near real time, but yeah, I have no real better way to put it than that. Yeah, so
In
it's
comparison to 3 years old, it's
exactly.
still real time,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
Circling back to the AI prompting, I think that's one of the parts that fascinates me the most. And I've seen the prompts you're using; they're
Yeah.
very sophisticated, they're very long. Um, and yes, you talked about how important it is to do good prompting and to tailor your messages
Yeah.
specifically to that target group, to a very small niche,
Yeah.
versus having black box AI prompts.
Yeah.
How can sales teams develop their own prompts that come close to what you do? Do you have any tips, any suggestions for them?
Okay. Um, Let me make a point right before that. The What we are seeing at HubSell is that the AI is not outperforming the top salespeople. Okay, so it needs to be said that while the AI written content is raising the floor, it's not raising the ceiling. It's better than around three-fourths, let's say 75% of the salespeople, at least in upsells cohorts, upsells customers. But it's not better than the top users that we have. They still write better emails than AI. And I would say that there is a limit to what the AI can do right now because it is still prone to, giving you the verbal equivalent of the hands because AI is not able to create the hands depiction really well. So you can see that also in words a little bit. However, um, having something that is outperforming majority of salespeople is still a very valuable thing. So I wanted to clarify that it's not better than the best, but it's better than the average, definitely. Okay, to answer the question about how we go about um, designing and helping customers design prompt and what tips I can share is first of all, you need to understand the basic best practices of outbound and give those as rules. For example, we typically say that write the email um, in so we can either say like the Flesh Kincaid reading score. It's a score that measures how difficult a text is or how high is somebody's reading level. Okay, and it's typically matched with grades in school, like first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. And so that's one of the things that you could tell AI to say, hey, write it at Flash Kincaid 70 score, which is around the sixth grade in high school. So you don't want to write emails that are academic, right? Because that's unnecessary cognitive load for the recipient. You want it to be simple, right? That's one tip. The other thing is, um, tell the AI specifically, because you can tell the AI what to do and what not to do. So you have positive and negative instructions. So some of the rules that I give is don't start the email with I hope you're well or I noticed or I this, I that, I trust this email finds you well. None of that. So I actively say that. And one thing you need to understand is that AI was trained on data that is available publicly. And what sort of writing is available publicly is marketing writing. Sales writing is not available publicly. So the AI is automatically skewed towards writing, similar to marketing speak. So you need to actively tell it to avoid that. And AI can understand models like Kincaid Flash or Flash Kincaid. It understands that because it has that knowledge. You can also use words like, so I used to say, don't be cringy to the AI, but then a user of HubSpell said, I tried the word sycophantic, and it worked better. It gave him better results. So we started using don't be sycophantic in your outreach. And this is not a common word. You can use the word, write it in vernacular, and AI will understand that. Yeah, so it knows what the word vernacular means and how it should look like. So um, the typical example of a prompt would be to share with, let's say, GPT, who you are, what you want to do, who you're targeting, who they are, and what the result should look like, and what rules it needs to follow. So typically in this structure, there could be some shuffling back and forth, not a big deal, but instructions above are considered more important by AI than instructions at the end.
Oh,
Okay?
interesting.
Yeah. Um, and the best thing is, of course, you got to test it. And so, let's say the context is, hello, GPT. I want you to write an email from the perspective of Karan, who is a salesperson with a decade or more in experience, and he loves this and that and then that. And Karan wants to reach out to First Name. First Name is title in this company. First Name talks about himself on LinkedIn as such and such and such. First Name's company name, uh, um, uh, um, talks about themselves in the About section like this. So paste About section there, and so forth and so on. We build the entire content. And then I tell the AI, I want you to read all of this, understand that, and then do the following. And then I say something like, write an email that starts with either hi or hello, first name. And wherever I say first name is a placeholder that automatically gets replaced, yeah, with HubSpell. Um, First name. Then I say, start the email with something like this. So you can hard code that. So you can always say the same thing. Or you can say something like this, but change it a little bit. You can instruct the AI to do that as well. For example, one of the things that I use in my outreach is um, I say, here's some food for thought, or hey, tell me how this lands with you. And I say something like, um, AI won't replace salespeople, but salespeople using AI will replace the ones that don't. Okay. And so you can give this to AI and say, add it exactly like this at the beginning, or make some variation of it and add it. It's up to you, and then you can play with that. Then I typically say is look at the information that I gave you about them and find 3 pain points they might have in the concept or in the, let's say, in the context of X. So I say outbound sales. And so the AI can then come up with pretty good pain points which fit. And then I say, after you've set the pain points, present HubSpell as a solution. And then I give it, well, this is a HubSpell solution. Use it exactly like that, or phrase it a little bit differently. And then I tell it the rules, like, write it in 70 to 90 words, um, write it in 4 paragraphs, write it in British English if I'm targeting UK, write it in German, or let's say Swiss German or Austrian German or Munich German. I don't know. You can tell all these things to it and see what it does for you, right? Um, I think I can pull my prompt here on my PC, and then I can talk more in detail because I don't know all of these stuff from mind. So you might need to edit this part or leave it in. Doesn't matter.
No, it's fine.
Just a second.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we can talk about. You just made a really interesting point that I would like to emphasize on, and I never thought about it until you mentioned it. That of course AI is trained on publicly available data, right?
Yeah.
And that sales data is not publicly available. Do you think about building your own GPT that is trained on the campaigns run by your clients and then finding
Yeah.
out what works best?
So we are doing that currently with human intelligence, let's say. So we actively find what works. And the thing is, um, what works is not a constant in outbound. Because you got to see it like this, that whatever is popular will stop working in outbound. That's the main thing. Novelty is key in outbound sales. As soon as, and it takes one email that your contact has received before you that looks like your email will make them think, this is cold outbound. Just one. If they read it, just one, because it will get stuck in their mind to some extent, and they say, okay, this actually, Jan sent me an email that David sent me, and it's very similar. Okay, these both of them are cold outreachers, right? So novel approaches that change things up for them is the main way you succeed in outbound, as far as I'm concerned. And if you rely on what has been successful in the past, you're making that mistake.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
It used to be this subject line, quick question, was considered the all-time best performing. Now it automatically goes in my spam folder. Now I actively recommend customers to write boring subject lines that make it look like a customer sent them that, because they will open that. Don't make your subject lines intriguing or exciting, because that's what marketing does, And so make it boring, make it all lowercase. Don't write fancy stuff in there. It should just look like, what is this? Let me just open it. It looks like something I need to deal with. Boom. But don't mislead the customer or the prospect. Don't say things like forward. And then, you have this fake email written below that says, it's like a fake email from their CEO. Hey, checked out Karan's profile, might be interesting. Why don't you get in touch with him? And then that's in the forward below. And then the email says, my CEO found interesting that I should reach out to you. Like, yeah, your CEO did. Sure. Why not? If you have outbound, why didn't you just reach out to me directly? Anyway, and why should it matter that your CEO saw my profile? And, this sort of gimmicky stuff. It's a gambit. You lose something to gain something. You lose credibility to gain an open. I don't believe in that. So, but there are better ways, there are smarter ways to actually appear boring, so that they open the email without negatively shocking them, negatively, impacting them, and don't be a clickbaity thing. So those would be some of the tips.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the prompt that you pulled up?
Yeah. So I mean, I can see it here. I tell the AI that, hey, I want you to write a highly targeted email to first name who is title of company name. This company operates in a lowercase company industry, because I can lowercase the industry to make it nicer in the text. To write email, I want you to look at first name's information and come up with something that can be naturally related to outbound sales. Then consider the information and come up with 3 common pain points to use in this email. And then I say, here is the information about first name. First name describes him or herself with if this, then that, if gender male, if gender female, him and her, like that. As the following in their LinkedIn About section. Then I give the About section. Then I say first name has the following work experiences. Then I give all of the work experiences with all of the About sections in the work experiences, with the dates and the company names and all of that. There's a placeholder for that in HubSell. Then I say, well, first name's company full name says the following about themselves. Here's company full name's homepage summary, because we can scrape the homepage and summarize it with AI. And then I say, here is company full name's specialties, and here are company full names about section on their LinkedIn page. So I give it all this information. Then I say, based on the information above, for first name and company full name, come up with the top 3 pain points a first name has within his or her objective for increasing revenue. Then based on that, craft an email that introduces to first name the idea of HubSell with wording similar to the following. So here I'm giving AI freedom to say, here's the idea, but feel free to write it by yourself. then I say, well, Hubsell is an AI, is a solution which uses AI to pull someone's LinkedIn profile to personalize. By the way, stop me if I'm continuing. I don't want to bore the listener. Yeah. Um, a Hubsell is a tool that uses AI to pull someone's LinkedIn profile to personalize each email and DM on LinkedIn, so it's unique. The results are better. Uh, um, Response rates, so you get better returns on your cold outbound efforts. And I say it's a shift from volume. So I give it all this information. I don't want to read all of it.
Yeah.
I'm getting bored.
Yeah, I just want to stop you so nobody can steal your magic, you
They
know?
can. I'll share it with you, and you can share it with the network. I want more people to have this because then they'll say, "Hey, this works a little bit better." This prompt, I didn't come up with it all by myself. I gave my prompt to a customer. Customer, one of the things that I've noticed is that writing a prompt is cognitively completely different from writing an email template. It's writing an email template is like pushing out your creativity on paper. Like you're giving birth to this email. So it's actually a painful process. Obviously not like a real birth, but it's quite annoying to write a template. That's why so many people are not good at it. But writing a good prompt is sharing what you want in natural language and then checking what you get. So it's the role from this forced creativity, creative process, to sharing what you want and checking if it's good. It's a totally different emotional experience. And
Yeah.
so our customers, when they see how it works, they can spend 2 hours without knowing they spent 2 hours. And they go back and forth changing. They get very nitty gritty about it. And then they say, "Hey, Karan, thank you for the prompt, but I improved it. Can you check it?" I go and check it. Like, it is improved. And so I take some stuff from it. I take it, I say, okay, this is nice. I take it out and I make it a template for everybody to use. I anonymize it. And so this prompt was actually something that so we added a new account, and I was onboarding the user, and he said, "Hey, I want to try this. Can you help me create this?" And so I did. And I said, "Why don't I try it for myself?" And this prompt was born. So it's not my
Nice.
idea, and I'm happy to share
So
it.
it's yeah, so your clients are helping you to iterate your own product. I think that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And
Um,
that's one of the problems with black boxed prompts.
yeah,
All of the innovation will come from, the team, and then you sort of in like this, limited scope. You don't have all of the ideas, and typically this will be done then by the tech people that have no experience and no business selling. And so, if you want a prompt to be innovated for salespeople should do it. So this is why
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
just said, here's the prompt, do with it what you want, ask us for help. If there's any technical things you need, we'll help you. And so, yeah, that's where we are now.
And for those salespeople listening, or those who want to become salespeople, eh, how can they try your product, or is there a different product where they can play around with the idea of building AI leveraged outreach?
Yeah, so I think you should use Hubsell when you wanna scale scale your activities to some extent. Because whatever you can do in Hubsell, you can do at a contact level with GPT, ChatGPT, or any AI. The only thing is so let's say you create a prompt, and for yourself, you create all these placeholders. Then you copy that prompt into a new prompt, and you replace all the placeholders with manually copied pasted information about your prospect. And then you send this prompt to AI to get what you need. So you can still use the same process we are doing without using Hubsell, for one by one, creation. And that's fine. You would use Hubsell. What the key benefit of Hubsell is that the data is pre-gathered, and you only need one prompt to prompt. We internally we like to say one prompt to rule them all. And so and so we have this one prompt that with which you can prompt AI for that particular action in the sequence of thousands of contacts, right? And so that's the benefit of Hubsell. It's not the prompt itself. You can manually prompt it, and you can check, hey, is it writing better than me? And most likely it will be if I think with majority of people, it will write better than you. And so you can definitely try the approach yourself just with GPT, with some manual setup in an Excel file or like a GDoc file where you have all of the, placeholders highlighted, and then you replace them one by one, and then that's something like that.
Great.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was really, really helpful, even for me.
good.
But to just recap everything and maybe, boil it down to the main things and
Yeah,
strategies just discussed in this podcast is, so as far as I understood, narrow down your market, right?
yeah,
Find a good niche, people you want to talk to in a certain company size, um, and then really try to nail down the messaging, right?
yeah,
Don't make it too complicated. I mean, I've seen great messages working for me
yeah,
when people reach out to me on LinkedIn, for example, or on Instagram even. I was following a business coach, and he sent me a message on Instagram, and he just said something like, "Hey, thanks for the follow. Are you looking for somebody to help you grow your business?"
yeah,
Just very simple.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I thought, like, okay, is he now talking to me directly? Like, is that person talking to me? No, of course not. It's a
yeah,
it's a virtual assistant or somebody else.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I can catch myself seeing these things, and it's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting, right?
The fact that this
This,
popped up in your head, is it a real person, tells you the state of outreach adoption we are in. Like the first
yeah,
thing the person thinks, is it a real email? Is it a person sending me this? And
yeah.
they'll say most likely not, but hey, still a good template, still a good email,
Yeah, and I
you
mean,
know?
I know people. I just read a post on LinkedIn, and he was basically talking about how amazing these outreach messages got, and like the people, send tailored messages and
Yeah.
videos talking about their business specifically, but that specific person came to a point where he was just like sending everything to spam, right?
Oh yeah.
But not everyone is like that. I sometimes get these messages and I know it's
It's
written
automated.
by
Yeah.
AI or not that
Yeah. Yeah.
person, but I still like it and I still find it intriguing to
Yeah.
answer, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, but I think that really boils it down to very simple and effective strategies and tactics.
Yeah.
And I think everybody listening right now will be able to, get into it more easily and have an idea of how to do it. For those who want to try prompting GPT, we will add
Yeah.
a small tool as a download in the description below, and then you can try around for yourself. If you want to up your outreach game, you can talk to us. You can talk to Karen, and um, I guess you'll give people a little insight and present your tool.
Sure.
Um, Karen, thank you so much for joining today. It was very insightful, and yeah, I guess we'll see what happens and if outreach is still the tool to
Yeah.
go to
Sure.
in the
Yeah.
in the next couple
I'm
of.
bullish on this, let's say.
You're bullish. Okay, good.
Indeed. And nice
All
to be
right,
here, man. It was a good exercise. I liked it. I think saying these
perfect.
things out loud also teaches yourself.
Yeah,
So that was
absolutely.
good. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
therapy, right?
Indeed, indeed. Yes. So cool. Yeah. Happy to do it again sometime if you wanna.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a nice
Take care,
day.
man. Take care. Yeah. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao, ciao.